A reading from Numbers chapter 13. The Lord said to Moses, "Choose one of the leaders from each of the 12 tribes and send them as spies to explore the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites." After exploring the land for 40 days, the spies returned to Moses, Aaron, and the whole community of Israel at Kadesh in the wilderness of Paran. They reported what they had seen and showed them the fruit that they had brought. They told Moses, "We explored the land and found it to be rich and fertile, and here is some of the fruit. But the people who live there are powerful, and their cities are very large and well fortified. Even worse, we saw the descendants of the giants there." Caleb silenced the people who were complaining against Moses and said, "We should attack now and take the land. We're strong enough to conquer it." But the men who'd gone with Caleb said, "No, we are not strong enough to attack them. The people there are more powerful than we are." So they spread a false report among the Israelites about the land they had explored. They said, "That land doesn't even produce enough to feed the people who live there. Everyone we saw was very tall, and we even saw giants there, the descendants of Anak. We felt as small as grasshoppers, and that is how we must have looked to them." All night long the people cried out in distress. They complained against Moses and Aaron and said, "It would have been better to die in Egypt or even here in the wilderness. Why is the Lord taking us into this land? We will be killed in battle, and our wives and children will be captured. Wouldn't it be better to go back to Egypt?" So they said to one another, "Let's choose a leader and go back to Egypt." Then the Lord said to Moses, "I will forgive them, as you have asked, but I promise that as surely as I live and as surely as my presence fills the earth, none of these people will live to enter the land. They have seen the dazzling light of my presence and the miracles that I performed in Egypt and in the wilderness, but they've tried my patience over and over again and refused to obey me. They will never enter the land which I promised their ancestors. None of those who rejected me will ever enter it. But because my servant Caleb has a different attitude and has remained loyal to me, I will bring him into the land which he explored, and his descendants will possess the land, in whose valleys the Amalekites and Canaanites now live. Turn back tomorrow and go into the wilderness in the direction of the Gulf of Aqaba." Now, when the Israelites realized that there'd be consequences for not following God, that the consequence was that they wouldn't be able to get into the promised land, they decided, aha, maybe we can do this after all. We are strong enough. In our own strength, we can handle it. We can do the job. So they gathered some courage, went into battle, tried to enter the promised land, but they were defeated. St. Paul says that the events that took place during the Exodus journey happened for our benefit, so that you and I can learn lessons from these stories. And there's lots of lessons, again, that we can learn. We can identify with what the Israelites went through, because for most of us, we can think of times when we could have done something that was valuable or necessary, but we maybe got a bit scared. We balked at doing it. Later on, we realized, I probably could have actually done that and done that a bit better than I did. So we can identify with them. We need faith just to live. We need faith to get through every day. We need faith to trust that God can take the negative things in our lives and bring good out of them. Sometimes we don't just need faith for optimism and hope. We need faith in order to work from day to day. When we procrastinate on doing something, maybe it's laziness that's making this happen, but sometimes it's a lack of faith. It's a lack of the belief that we can actually do the job in the first place. And if we don't see a way that we can get the job done, then we're not as likely to push ahead with it. When Jesus tells us that with enough faith we can move mountains, he might be talking about something supernatural. I'm sure he is, actually. But that concept also applies just to regular everyday life. Sometimes a job that we have to do can seem like a mountain, and so we are encouraged to chisel away at that mountain day after day, and eventually the mountain will be moved. There's one more point that this passage has to share with us, and that's the effect that the rebellion of the people had on Caleb and on Joshua. God promised to Caleb and Joshua that they would be able to enter the promised land. They did get there. It took them a while, but they got there. And I think there's a lesson in that for us. Sometimes when the people around us do things that aren't things that God is pleased with, we can be frustrated because we think that their actions are blocking us from receiving God's blessings for our lives. But this story says to us that if it's a matter of receiving blessings from God, we can trust that God will still follow through with what he's promised to us. The actions of other people possibly will delay what takes place, but they won't prevent it from happening. And that's an encouraging message that this story has for us as well.